Welcome. I'm further back from the camera today, just showing you new angles like like our video last week. I want to just kind of give you a different look every week to help you think bigger about the kind of podcasts, YouTube shows, media projects you can make. And that's what the topic of today's video is about, because a lot of the conversations I've been having lately with clients, with people who are interested in making media projects, haven't quite fit into traditional podcasting. And that's a good thing, because traditional podcasting is changing very quickly, and it has been for a couple of years. But I think 2024 is a year where we're going to see the biggest shift in traditional chat show interview style podcasting, partly because it's really moving towards video first for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Not everyone, not all the time, but for a lot of people in a lot of ways. We're moving to a video first format, which changes how we make shows, how we format shows, how we produce shows, how we record shows. Like, all of it changes when you're doing video first versus audio first. And because there's a lot of really cool fusions happening. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but today's video I really want to make helpful to you by talking about how to decide if you are really well suited to a traditional chat show podcast, or if maybe another type of show would also be helpful to you. And we talked about this a couple videos ago, but I'm going to give a little bit different take this time. In case that was sort of got your wheels turning, I'm going to give you a little bit more to think about. So we talked a couple videos ago about all the different other things you can do besides podcasting. We talked about audio projects, video projects, limited series, things behind a paywall, things open to the public, and that's all very useful and valid, and go watch that video if you haven't. But if you've really settled on no, I know that a podcast where I sit down and I chat with people in person about the thing that we want to talk about, that our audience wants to know, I know that that's the way for me to create the, impact or intention that you have going. I want to kind of give you the 2024 rule book, I would say, for putting your best foot forward with that. So one thing is, do consider a video first show. And here's a quick way to make a good decision. Can you get to a decent space to film with your guests on a very regular basis? Right there, that kind of divides the water, right? Do you have access to a studio space, or do you have that set up in your home or your office? Do you have the resources to pay for it? Can the guests that you want to be interviewing make it there in person? Are they local to you, or do they come in town often enough for you to access them? That right there really helps you make a clear decision. If the answer is yes, I'm going to talk about what to do. If the answer is no, then I would strongly encourage doing an audio first show, because that gives you the flexibility to record in a lot of different places. Your guests don't have to be in the same room as you. You have way more flexibility with editing. It's less expensive. It's less time consuming. There's a lot of flexibility that an audio only show offers you, but I don't want you to make the decision to do audio first just because it's easier and flexible. I want you to really listen to me what I'm going to say about video first. If the answer was yes, and you could go to a studio or have a great setup, accessible on demand, you have budget for it, you can with good faith know that your guests will be able to come meet you in person on a regular basis to record, then I want you to really think about the experience that you are creating for the audience. Yes, for your guest, but for the audience in the setup that you share with them via video. An audio experience is powerful, and I'm preaching to the choir here, right? If you listen to podcasts, you know how powerful a great audio experience can be when it's two people having a really important conversation that's well thought through and well edited. What happens when you build video in is you get all of this interesting energy that's nonverbal, right? There's the body language, There's what people look like. Like there's so many times people listening to an interview will then see a photo later of the guest or the host and be like, oh my gosh, that's totally not what I thought they looked like. Wow, I have a whole different take on them now. Like neither good nor bad, just there is a lot of context to a person speaking. And since we're talking about like chat shows, interview style shows, like that's why I'm making this point. There is so much context given when an audience can see the actual look of the person, the guest and the host. There's so much context. Obviously, the body language, the environment that they're sitting in and chatting on, right? Like anyone can sit down in front of a great mic in any room, anywhere, and have a good conversation. But what happens when you have like a certain vibe going on within, and I'm not saying this has to be like gorgeous and fancy and expensive and custom, something this simple, right? Like a clean background with a little bit of color, like a setup that I'm just talking, just straight to camera right now, but you've seen clips in other videos when we had 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, like there is actually a lot of vibe check that goes on when you can see the environment that people are in while recording. Traditional podcasting for years was like bros in their garages, just like a table full of junk. And they loved it. And that was like the reputation of podcasting. And that's changed a lot. And so now where podcasting is way more diverse in the guests and the hosts and the environments, it's kind of grown up, and you don't think of podcasting now as like the 2 dudes in a garage. That's kind of like, a nostalgic stereotype, but we know that that's not like how most people are podcasting anymore. Now there's this whole environmental thing going on. And what you don't see on camera is all the other pieces of the space that people are recording in. Right now, all you can see is the couch I'm sitting on, a little bit of the background panels, and this microphone. So you can't see that I can see the whole rest of the studio. I know what neighborhood I'm in. I know like the temperature of the room and the smell of the room and the lighting. Like there's a whole experience happening around me that's also impacting the conversation I'm having. And so that's something to consider when you're doing a video for a show, with a chat show with guests, is like, what environment am I bringing them into, and how is the audience going to pick up on that as they take in the interview or the episode. Now, we've talked about this in other videos on the channel. The video experience isn't everything, because obviously most people are not going to sit and watch every minute of a 60-minute episode, right? Most of the time they're going to just listen, but then they're going to reference back to the video when they want to see like a reaction or expression or something like that. So I want you to keep this all with a grain of salt. Like last week, we talked about how easy video can be and you don't have to overproduce. The week before that, we talked about all these other media projects that you can do besides podcasting. But I'm just trying to give you more fuel to nourish and nurture what you're trying to create, like the media project that you're watching this video to learn more about. There is a level, it's like a fine, beautiful line between production value and quality of content, right? Like you can't make bad content good just with editing and production. You also can really hurt good content by doing really bad production. So there's a balance, and that's what I'm trying to communicate here, is if you haven't considered, or if you've kind of just backburnered the idea of a video first chat show, I want you to like really seriously consider it, because there's so much, we've talked about this in other videos, so much that you can do with a YouTube channel that has a long form, regularly posted content that's attractive for many, many reasons. And so if the answer to the question at the start of this video, like, can you actually viably get to a studio with your guests on a regular basis? If the answer is yes, I would highly encourage thinking about a video first chat show. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. I referenced some other videos, so if you haven't watched those, go watch those as well. That'll kind of help give you more context for what I'm talking about. If you have questions about like when, where, how, drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them or do a follow-up video. Subscribe to the channel. I'm bringing you these videos weekly to really help you make the best media projects in podcast and YouTube and all these other cool related audio video formats online this year for your goals and your projects and what you know is possible.